It's Lent, and once again, St. James is doing the Matthew 25 project. The purpose of the project is to call our attention to the 25th chapter of Matthew and the third parable in that chapter. Now, that story is often called the Judgment of the Nations, or we also know it as the final judgment or the last judgment. And in that story, the righteous are separated from the unrighteous. And they're also called the sheep from the goats. And what is the criteria that's used? It's how well we have loved our neighbor. Now, you remember that commandment to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, and to love your neighbor as yourself? Well, this is that same commandment. Now, it's always good to read before and after, what comes before or after a particular story in the gospel, because that puts it into the context it was meant to be read in. And in this case, there are actually 3 parables or stories in chapter 25 of Matthew. And those stories tell us some information about what God is trying to share with us. And that is to be prepared, to use the gifts that God has entrusted to us to further the kingdom, and to act on God's will. So we're just going to take a couple minutes to look at these 3 stories and put them into context. And I invite you to read the full chapter of Matthew 25 later on. Now, the first story is about 10 maidens who went out in the darkness with their lamps lit to meet the bridegroom. The story tells us that those 5 maidens, the first 5 maidens, were wise. And that's because they were prepared and they brought extra oil with them. But the other 5 maidens were foolish because they came unprepared. Now, are you prepared? We go further in the story, we find that the bridegroom is delayed. And so the maidens, while they're waiting for the bridegroom, all fall asleep. Now, the wise maidens who were prepared, once the bridegroom finally came, they woke up and they added oil to the lanterns. They went into the big party. But the foolish maidens, what they did is they were left in the darkness. Now, are you prepared or are you a procrastinator? I know myself, when I was in high school, I didn't want to take the time to go to Mass. And, I figured I was just really busy to have a prayer life. But when I got a job or I went off to college, I thought I would have more time. But then I went off to college and I found I was just as busy or more busy than I was in high school. And I thought, oh, you know what? When I get a job and I, get out of school and things settle down, but then I got in a relationship, I had children. There are 1,000 ways we can fill our time. But being a Christian is not like having a part-time job or a hobby. It's about how we spend our lives and how we live out our lives. It's about what we plan to do with our time and about who we plan to do that time with. Are you prepared? Is your lamp lit? Our second story in chapter 25 is about a wealthy man who decided to go on a long journey, and he entrusted his wealth to his servants while he was on that journey. And to his first servant he gave 5 talents, to the second he gave 2, and to the third he gave 1. Now, God has also entrusted us with gifts, and those gifts are gifts of the Holy Spirit, like courage, wisdom, and understanding. He's also given us some physical gifts, like the ability to use our intelligence, creativity, compassion, and doing service for others. We have also been gifted in such a way that we were born into really a relatively wealthy country when you consider the rest of the world. So we have good access to things like food and shelter and health care and the ability to earn a good wage to take care of our families. Now, when the master went out and he gave his wealth, to these 3 servants, he asked them to take care of that wealth. Now, the first 2 servants came back and brought the master 2 times what they were given. And the master said to them, "Well done, good and faithful servants, because I have given you little, but you have brought back much." Now the third servant went out and buried his treasure in the dirt. Are you using your gifts that God has entrusted to you to help further the kingdom? Now our final story, of course, is the story of the Last Judgment, where God separates the righteous from the unrighteous, the sheep from the goats. And when he does, he goes to the unrighteous and he says to them, when I was hungry and thirsty, you did not feed me. When I was a stranger and I was imprisoned and I was sick, you did not care for me. And the unrighteous will say, Lord, when did we see you? And, oh, were you that homeless person that I passed on the street on the way to the basketball game? Oh, you know, I was kind of late for the game and I didn't have any change in my pocket. Oh, so you were the couple that lived across the street, the immigrant couple that had small children, the ones who lost their jobs. Well, I'm sorry, I just didn't think it was my place to get involved. But the Lord will turn to them and say, what you have not done for these, you have not done for me. And then the Lord will turn to the righteous, and he will say, when I was hungry and thirsty, you fed me. When I was a stranger, imprisoned, and I was sick, you cared for me. And the righteous will also say, Lord, when did we do this for you? And here's the irony of the story, that the righteous have done all these things as a part or a course of their life. They don't even realize that they're doing it because it has become so ingrained in who they are. Are you prepared? Is your lamp lit? Are you using the gifts that God has entrusted to you to further the kingdom? Are you acting on the will of God? Seriously, are you prepared?